To impose tariffs or not, President Donald Trump has gone back and forth on the issue. Ahead on Face the State. First, the president imposed stiff tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China, and then paused many of them. What effect is that having on companies and consumers? I'll talk with the president of a local company with national reach about the tariff situation. Also, pomp, pageantry, and priorities. Governor Mike DeWine will give his State of the State address this week. But do his priorities line up with the legislature's? A political analyst weighs in on the importance of the big speech. And stirring the pot. Another bill to change Ohio's recreational marijuana laws has been added to the mix. We'll look at what this one will change and what it will keep the same. Thanks for joining us for Face the State. I'm Doug Petcash. The word of the week is tariffs. There's been a lot of discussion about their potential impacts on the U.S. economy and your personal finances. Some economists and investors worry President Trump's now paused tariffs on Canada and Mexico, as well as those on China, will lead to a trade war. They quickly led to a tumultuous week on the stock market. But now many of those tariffs are on pause for nearly a month. Let's recap. On Tuesday, President Trump moved forward with 25% tariffs on nearly all goods from Mexico and Canada. He also put an additional 10% tariff on Chinese imports. Then on Thursday, he announced he was pausing tariffs on Canada and Mexico. The stock market has had an unsteady week amidst the uncertainty. CBS News reports that Wall Street analysts say the market reaction reflects investor concerns a trade war could slow economic growth and spur inflation. If the tariffs ultimately go into effect, that could impact the prices we pay for all kinds of goods because businesses will likely pass along the cost to consumers. In his Tuesday night address to Congress, the president did acknowledge the slew of tariffs could cause a, quote, little disturbance. But again, the tariffs are now paused. 10 TV's Tara Jabor talked to ordinary Ohioans about their concerns and an economist about the potential impact of tariffs on prices if they go into effect and stay in effect.
We spoke with people in the short north to hear what they think about the tariffs.
A policy that will restrict the growth of the three economies.
Garrido thinks that consumers will pay the price.
This will affect U.S. consumers, given that a lot of the raw products that are consumed by U.S. consumers are produced in these two other countries.
Benton Wishart told us he's most concerned about the cost of gas.
There's going to be large implications for oil and gas and for raw mineral imports.
Ned Hill, a professor of economic development at The Ohio State University, says the first thing people will notice is the increase in price of food.
High demand, high margin foods in the winter that largely grow in Mexico. Say goodbye to your avocados.
Next, gasoline.
The reason for that is that's heavy crude. It takes special refineries to handle it. And guess where they're located? They're in Toledo and they're in Lima.
Hill says a lot of cars have parts that are made in Mexico and in Canada, but he thinks those tariffs will take time for consumers to notice since cars aren't built overnight. Hill worries that if the tariffs last, they could have a long-term negative impact on the economy.
Combined with the layoffs from Washington, an increase in deporting labor from the United States, and large tariff increases, I think the probabilities of a recession have increased dramatically.
Now again, President Trump has paused many of the tariffs on Canada and Mexico, including the auto tariffs. If they do go back into effect, the tariffs would impact many industries and economic sectors. One of them is the restaurant and food service industry. The Wasserstrom Company is a 120-year-old Columbus-based family-run food service and supply business with clients and customers across the country. The company's products include stoves and ovens, ice machines, pots and pans, dishes and silverware, and many more products. According to Wasserstrom's website, they work with restaurants ranging from fast food to fine dining. And company leaders say they see how tariffs can affect operating costs, the supply chain, and overall business operations. Joining me now is the president of Wasserstrom Company, Brad Wasserstrom. Brad, thank you for being here today. Appreciate it.
It's great to be here. Thank you, Doug.
So we've seen a lot of changes this week just in the tariff discussion and the tariff policy. First they were in effect, and I mentioned that they were put on pause. What does that kind of back and forth do to your planning purposes and the way that you can adjust to what's going on?
It puts a lot of stress on our team, first of all. You can imagine the number of phone calls we're getting from our customers and clients, wondering what their pricing will be. They want some certainty. Our team then is reacting to that, calling our suppliers and vendors, but we're not always able to get the answers from them. They don't always have clarity on how the tariffs are going to work. So it's just putting a lot of stress on our team back and forth, when we do get information, getting that into our system so we can enact it as we go through our transactions. And then, of course, there's the implications on costs for our business and for our customers.
With the pause right now, the cost won't be changing immediately, right? But are you still having to plan for the possibility of that happening? Because it's paused for basically a month.
Absolutely. We started getting a few weeks ago price increases from our supplier base. Most of the price increases start taking effect April, May, some all the way out into July at this point, depending on the supplier's amount of inventory existing and what their sometimes the item may not be from Mexico itself, but it might have components from Mexico or China, for instance. So it might only be a part of the item. So we're having to put that into our system now. So as the price increases come, our system's ready to go. It just creates a lot of work and a lot of chaos.
Yeah. Are you already seeing the price increases, even though tariffs haven't officially, really started yet?
We've gotten the notices. The price increases start taking effect April 1, and depending on the supplier, some of them don't take place until, say, June. But we've been getting notices daily for a few weeks now.
Maybe you can give us an example of how this would play out for your company in terms of the way your products are put together and then ultimately shipped. You have some components or some involvement from the three big countries that have been mentioned in this. Can you explain how Canada, Mexico, and China are involved in some of the Wasserstrom products?
Sure. About 40% of our products are coming from one of those countries. And of that 40%, about 80% comes from China. A lot of those products are not able to be sourced in the United States and sometimes nowhere else in the world. It's the only place that really is making it. In an extreme case, you have an item where one part of the component, and this is an actual item, a glass component comes from China, a wood component comes from Canada, it gets shipped to Mexico where they do an assembly within a metal frame and it all gets put together there and then shipped into the United States from Mexico. The supplier we get that item from is not sure how the tariffs will work for them. Sometimes it's a little bit more straightforward. The item is something that comes directly from the country, not from others. But adding to the mix then is in the next week or so, there's another tariff that's been proposed on metal of 25%. And a lot of food service products use metal, especially
you're talking about
steel.
The prep tables, refrigerators, stoves,
ice machines, even flatware, pots and pans. They're all metal items that would have some piece of tariff on it.
So how does that then end up trickling down, so to speak, from what you do to your customers, who are the restaurants and hotels, and then ultimately to their customers, who would be the people who are going to eat?
Sure. Well, the hospitality industry has had a really tough go, especially since COVID. It's always been a margin-tight industry. Since COVID, we've had the labor challenges, rents have gone up, food prices have gone up. Now we're talking about items that they use in their prep and their serving, in their kitchens. We would have to pass on these price increases. We don't have enough ability to not pass those on. The restaurants and hotels, food service, margins are thin there, so they're going to have to do the same. Our part is only one component, though, for our customers. A lot of our produce comes from Mexico, and you'll have a tariff on that. So as much as we've seen menu prices go up the past few years, and consumers are really feeling that, the restaurants are very reluctant to raise prices, but in a lot of cases, they're going to have to recoup these costs.
We've seen that with the egg shortage, for sure.
Absolutely.
But that's not really related to tariff situations. Can there be a tariff that would be good in terms of, targeted tariffs that might protect the industry in some way?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure there is one. I understand the basis for a tariff is to put a level playing field between American producers and those that come from overseas. But a lot of the products in our industry, there is no American producer anymore. The products have been completely moved to overseas manufacturing. So in the short run, I don't know if I could come up with a good tariff for our industry.
For your industry.
In the long run, it may work very well. Time will tell.
Yeah, basically what you're saying is that when people talk about targeted tariffs, that would be for products that are already produced in the United States that, you can get here or they can ramp up production on. But a lot of the things that you're using don't have that.
And I'm not an expert in other industries. There are certainly other industries where you have American-based manufacturing that could really be helped by this. But an awful lot of our products either come from overseas or the components within the product come from overseas. We could have a refrigeration company here in the United States manufactures their refrigerators here, but they might be buying their metal from, say, Canada or another country. The compressor for that refrigerator might come from China or somewhere else. There's very little in our industry that is 100% able to be made here in the U.S.
So does this pause, though, maybe even if the tariffs are going to go into effect, does it give time for, the rules to be written and things so that you can, take a breath and understand where this will be and a chance to do the math?
Yeah, the pause will definitely help settle down some of the chaotic nature of what's happened the last few weeks, allow the rules to come into place, allow the factories to understand what their responsibility in these tariffs are and how much they would have to pass on, and then allow us as a distributor to take those increases and figure out what we then have to do for our clients.
Okay. Now, I did mention earlier on, as just changing gears a little bit here, 120 years that Wasserstrom has been around. People may see the retail location as they drive off along I-71.
Yeah.
But 120 years, and it's stayed in the family. How have you been able to do that?
Well, I think there's been a lot of...
4 generations now, right?
I am 4th generation. I have 10 relatives in the business. 6 of us are 4th generation. I think we've, as a family, made a lot of good decisions over the years, sometimes a lot of lucky breaks. The community's been really good to us. We're very passionate about taking care of our customers and our clients. We treat them fairly, and we make sure that we are solving their solutions, and when there is an issue, we take care of it, and they've embraced us.
How did it grow? I mean, it started off small by your great-grandfather, I guess?
Yeah, great-grandfather started. He had come over as a young child from Europe, and he moved to Columbus and started selling tchotchkes off the back of a wagon. And in the 30s, we opened up our first restaurant and equipment supply store. Got into manufacturing in the 40s and 50s, into wood manufacturing, and then into metal manufacturing. And then in the 60s, fortuitously, Dave Thomas had moved to Columbus, and his second day in town met my father, and they struck up a great friendship. And one day, Dave said to my dad, I'm going to open up a burger restaurant, name it after my daughter Wendy, and if I'm really lucky, one day I'll have 10 restaurants. And I think there are around 7,000 now. But what Dave taught us was there was going to be this multi-unit chain part of the industry that was going to happen. And we engineered our company to aim towards that. So a majority of our business is chain restaurants, but we've never lost sight of that local independent restaurateur that gives the city a lot of its flavor.
Deep connection with Wendy's restaurants.
Absolutely.
That's pretty cool. Brad Wasserstrom, thanks for your perspective, from a business perspective on how this can, impact and ripple out as this all plays out. And we will stay in touch to see how it's going.
Thank you so much for having me, Doug.
All right, take care. Well, still ahead on Face the State, the governor at center stage. Governor Mike DeWine is getting ready to deliver his State of the State address. We'll look at some of the priorities he's likely to lay out, like he did in his budget proposal. A political expert weighs in on what the governor might try to accomplish. And later, it's a mission to stop distracted driving and save lives. Maria's message, how it's doing that, and how you can help just by having a sandwich. Welcome back to Face the State. This Wednesday, Governor Mike DeWine will deliver his next to last State of the State address. The address is the governor's opportunity to lay out his vision and priorities for the coming year and look back on past accomplishments and challenges. It comes at a time when lawmakers are hammering out the budget for the next 2 years. 2 weeks ago, DeWine introduced his more than $200 billion executive budget proposal, his last as governor. He proposes a child tax credit for parents that would be funded by a cigarette tax increase of $1.50 per pack. His budget also includes investments to promote access to children's physical and mental health programs, encourage Ohioans to have careers in high-demand jobs, support law enforcement, and protect and improve water quality. However, the proposed budget would also cut public school funding by more than $100 million. Columbus City Schools Superintendent Angela Chapman says CCS alone stands to lose more than $45 million over the next 2 school years. Retired Ohio State political science professor Paul Beck says the governor and legislature are not always on the same page when it comes to priorities, and that could play out in the State of the State address.
And it'll be interesting to see how he maneuvers that, because he probably, as a lame duck, as somebody who is not going to be in politics after next year, he probably is going to want to leave some kind of a distinctive mark of his governorship. And that's how he's going to try, I think, to differentiate himself from what the legislature is likely to do.
The governor will deliver his address to a joint session of the General Assembly in the House chambers Wednesday at noon. Another lawmaker is proposing changes to marijuana laws in Ohio. Thursday, Republican Representative Brian Stewart introduced House Bill 160. It's similar to the bill just passed in the Senate, but does have key differences. This bill would not change the current home grow number and tax rates Ohioans voted for in 2023. Those would stand at 12 plants per household and 10% tax. But it does redirect the collected taxes. 20% of marijuana taxes over 5 years would go to the Host Community Cannabis Fund to benefit cities that have not banned or limited marijuana. The rest goes to the Ohio General Fund. That's all instead of going into 4 funds voters approved: the Social Equity and Jobs Program, municipalities with dispensaries, a substance abuse treatment fund, and administrative costs. But it would require any product with more than 0.3% of THC to be sold at a dispensary. Right now, people can buy those at smoke shops and gas stations. The bill also provides a faster path to expunge prior marijuana convictions.
Many of our constituents have made it clear to us that they support legal adult use marijuana that is taxed at a reasonable rate, that is regulated by the state to ensure products are as safe as possible, and that can, if desired, be grown at home.
Representative Stewart says the goal is to get a marijuana bill passed before they break for the summer. Next on Face the State, learning the rules of the road. New drivers getting behind the wheel before they hit the road. Something positive after a tragedy. How our Dom Tiberi and friends are working to save lives. Right now, you can see actual size cutouts of 10 TV's Dom Tiberi at 35 Jersey Mike's stores in Central Ohio. It's part of a fundraiser for the Maria Tiberi Foundation to end distracted driving. Now through the end of March, a portion of your purchase will go to the foundation. And on March 26th, all sales at those locations will go to the foundation. Maria Tiberi died in a distracted driving car crash back in 2013. She was a senior at The Ohio State University, majoring in graphic design. Now the foundation in her name is working to end distracted driving and save lives. It raises money to donate driving simulators. Those simulators are now in 4 schools in Central Ohio, and several were donated to the entire Springfield, Ohio community, including the Haitian community, who've had some struggles driving. Well, you can see those cutout versions of Dom in all participating Jersey Mike stores. But right now, I'm joined in person by the real Dom Tiberi to talk about the difference that this fundraising is making. Dom, thanks for coming in to Face the State today.
You know, I never thought in a million years I'd be doing something like this. And obviously, thank you to Jersey Mike. These are raising crucial dollars. You know, when we lost our daughter Maria in 2013, you know, I've been in the news business my whole life, and I knew car crashes were bad, but I never knew at that time that it was the leading killer of our children, age 8 to 24. And then you look at it more, and of all age groups, it's the third leading killer, with heart disease number 1, cancer's 2, and car crashes are 3. And
Wow.
I ask you what's more preventable, and I've said often that as parents and grandparents, we should be screaming that it's not acceptable that in 2025 the leading killer of our children's car crashes.
And still is. Tom, you've said to me, we've talked about this, that you've got to keep pushing forward. What else can you do? Well, what else you've done is turn this into this kind of positive thing here. And it's making a huge difference. What does that mean to you?
I wish we didn't have to do it.
Of course.
I wish we weren't in this position, but I have empathy for all parents out there that have lost a child, and we had a decision to make when our daughter was killed. What do we do? And the fact that I'm on television, I felt like God gave me a mission, gave my wife and I a mission. We had an opportunity, and we do this not only for us, we do this for all the other parents out there that are suffering, especially if their child was killed in a car crash. And the statistics don't lie. 16-year-olds are 3 times more likely than any other age group to be killed in a car crash. But I want to say something about statistics. Every statistic out there has a name, has a face, and has a family that's missing them. And for us, it's going on 12 years that we lost Maria, but I promise you, Doug, it feels like it's been 30 seconds ago. And so our mission is to try to help change the culture. I agree 100% with Governor DeWine, who, by the way, lost his child in a car crash.
Yeah, Becky.
And it kind of started with Governor Kasich. He lost both his parents in a car crash, and we're all affected by it. And so we decided, as you said, I have a platform and I'm going to try to do something about it. We initially bought 48 driving simulators, placed them around the state of Ohio, primarily with police departments. And now, as you mentioned, we've opened 4 simulator schools, each one featuring 25 simulators. We have Tolles Career Center, which was the first. Then we went to Eastland Fairfield. Then we went into Fort Hays. And now we are into St. Charles. And we have plans now to take it statewide. We have some things in the works that we hope we're going to be able to announce soon. But it's, we're a 501c3 and it's all about raising money. And that's why we are thrilled that Jersey Mike's chose our foundation. And, and to you folks watching, their food's fabulous. And if you can, go out. And we appreciate all the donations we get. And on March 26th, all sales, everything they do at those 35 stores, the foundation gets that. And it's just absolutely amazing. And I'm just so thankful and blessed to be in this position.
And it's making a difference. It really is. And I assume that you've tried out the simulators a couple times yourself, right?
They're state of the art. They're amazing. Each one costs $15,000. They have 16 different lesson plans on them. It's easier for the kids. For us older folks, it messes with your brain a little bit, but it's a curved screen. And we had a bunch of folks looking at them the other day, and they were blown away by them. And, I tell people I'm an advocate for moms and dads. The bottom line is if your parents are in your business, if they want to know where you've been, what time you're coming home, what mom and dad is really saying to your kids is that they love you.
That's right, Dom, definitely. You're showing the love back to the community by doing this. Appreciate you coming in to Face the State today, brother.
Thanks, buddy.
All right.
God bless you.
Thank you, Dom. You too. Thank you for joining me this week for Face the State. I'm Doug Petcash. I'll see you next Sunday at 11:30.